Right, wrapping up there, an Eskom briefing. You heard the CEO, Andre de Ruyter, saying he's not going anywhere. There have been calls for his resignation given the unprecedented rolling blackouts that we've experienced this year. Saying basically, I think the COO summed up what the execs were saying, that they are actually doing a good job, they believe, under the conditions that they are dealing with, saying that things will get better. We're in stage 4, and remember that was announced at very short notice, only half an hour for the people studying for exams, etc. yesterday, but things looking better as we go into the weekend, saying we'll move to stage 3, then stage 2, and load shedding expected to be suspended by the weekend. The CEO also dealing with claims that Eskom is manipulating this, implementing these rolling blackouts so that Eskom can be privatized, called that a wild conspiracy theory. And he also denounced those who have suggested that we could be heading towards a complete blackout, saying that they have things under control. Let's get the view now from the former chairperson of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, and that is the parliamentary committee that holds state-owned entities to account for their situations. Themba Godi joining us now. He's African People's Convention leader. Mr. Godi, thank you for being with us, and I believe that you are one of those who has been saying that the current rolling blackouts are a ploy to see Eskom privatized. Do you still believe that?
Thank you very much for having us, Francis. Indeed, I must say that the current state of Eskom has institutionalized uncertainty of the power supply in a way that makes it almost inevitable to privatize Eskom. You would have heard at the end the CEO, Mr. de Ruyter, saying the only time we're going to not have load shedding is when Eskom has been able to find between 4,000 and 6,000 megawatts of electricity. And all of this, it's what is going to be purchased from independent power producers and not through Eskom. You would realize that Mr. de Ruyter and also the Minister of Finance have said that Eskom cannot be saved. So what should happen to Eskom? It means it must be privatized. So I think I still stand by my view, and all that has happened is actually confirmed that we're moving in that direction. But
what about what he was saying, that would be a wild conspiracy theory, that Eskom executives have no purview over policy? It's actually government that decides whether Eskom will be privatized or not. Why would he be involved in that? That's what he's saying. Your response?
Sure, true. No. I think it's correct. Policy is formulated by government, and this is not a policy choice of the Eskom executive. It is actually the policy choice of this current government. The trajectory of the current ANC government is to privatize as much as possible of whatever was left of the state-owned entities. That's why the calls for the board and management of Eskom to resign, for me, it's merely half their attention to the problem, because they are merely implementing a policy choice that has been made by government.
Even though, Mr. Godi, even though some government officials and the ANC spokesperson, for example, have suggested that Eskom is sabotaging the party. So they seem to be in conflict, but you're saying they're working together and there's a conspiracy going on.
Not at all. The ANC has perfected the Smoke and Mirrors Act. I mean, the ANC cannot complain about being sabotaged by entities that they are running. It is an attempt at distancing the ANC as a party from the failure of the entities that they are running. It's a magician's trick that they so perfectly play on the people. They play the victim. I'm sure you recall that there was a march organized by some ANC structures to Eskom. But here's the point. Fact of the matter is that there have been strong calls for privatization of state entities. And if we look generally across the board, you realize that almost all the key state entities are failing, and the only route available is to privatize them.
Yeah.
But with Eskom, the unfortunate part is that in the process of, letting Eskom die, it impacts on almost everything and everybody in the country, especially the economy, where from COVID, induced economic slowdown, and then you have the unreliability of power supply to industries, and that cannot in any way assist in the recovery of the economy. It can only create uncertainty. I mean, even the apartheid government used to pride itself when it was soliciting investment that we have cheap, reliable electricity. So what will be our call line in this instance when you cannot be certain that there will be availability of energy?
Mr. Godi, final question, just to challenge you, why would it be so dire to have more players making energy? Why can't you have Eskom and private players and enough energy to go around? The argument against privatisation is always that private players won't have an incentive to electrify the poorest of the poor. But isn't there already a plan on the table where there will be distribution always under the control of the state, always under Eskom, to ensure that poor people will never be left out, for example?
Well, look, one of the conditionalities that are in place with the green energy production is that Eskom is restricted from producing its own green energy, wherein you would say private players would come in and compete with Eskom and their own abilities. But fact of the matter is that when we look right across the globe, we realize that the green energy lobby is very much a neo-colonial front that seeks to take away the resources that Africa should use for its development in a way that the developed countries have used for themselves.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Former SCOPA Chair Themba Godi. South Africa experiencing unprecedented rolling blackouts this year. We thought it was already pretty dire.